very interesting because some bacteria cannot grow on pileup, you know, because maybe because it has some high activity of proteinases in it. And the two last slides, they concern pillar 4. I'm not going to talk about it because Dr. Renard is going to talk. I just mentioned that she will talk. This is not my end of my speeches. I have 1 or 2 more minutes. This is great. So I would like to mention something about new technologies. This is always dangerous. When I was in America in 1985 and visited several universities going through the whole continent, I was in Davis, California, food science department, and they were using sterilization of cans, you know. I returned to the factory where I was working and said to the owner, sir, you know, so beautiful technology. And he said, we all was almost bankrupted because of this technology. We were fascinating, we introduced it, but the sterilization was not complete, and that was disaster. And he said, never more. So be quite sure that processors are rather traditionalists. They will stick to the technology because it's safe. However, the processors also have to change their opinion because, for instance, in European Union and in the whole world, there is a pressure on CO2 footprint. It means that they have to calculate now how much they generate per kilogram of product of CO2, and this is very important. So going into low temperature technologies will preserve our world, of course. So this is quite important, and this policy of sound approach is also demonstrated by European organization, and this is Fruit Juice Association, European Fruit Juice Association, and OEFTL, which is an organization for food canners in Europe. Concluding, I would say that we have to be open to new technologies under the conditions that the work is done in cooperation with processors, so they will learn that the technology is safe and safe to implement into production. So I think I would finish on this. Thank you very much.
Yes, although we are running a little bit late, we still have time for questions.
Yes, please.
For some, does it work? Yeah. For some of your products, you are very critical about the temperature. So you put a lot of focus on that the temperature should be in between 0 and 5 degrees, for instance. In my shopping bag and in the back of my car, it's never that temperature. And what happens, let's say, or is it very critical for the products that you produce, let's say, that I drive around in my car for, let's say, 1 hour with that product in the back of my car? Because that's in the end what happens when the consumer will buy it.
Well, the answer is such that microbes, first of all, they have some, before they germinate, you know, they have some lag stage, you know, about it, you know, and they need time to germinate and then develop and multiply. The prerequisite, you know, for safety of the product is to produce it at low temperature. It's usually lower before 5, but recommendation is 0 to 5, because if you go down to freezing temperatures, you will have, you know, damages of the cells, etc. If you go up, you can, you know, induce the germination of psychotropic, working in low temperatures, and this is a problem, because they grow at low temperatures as well. But if you take your minimally processed food home, it's not intended for longer storage. You just wait until it heats up to room temperature and you eat it, because it's available, at any time in the store, and you have a limit of suitability for consumption. And when you observe it, it's all perfect, no problem. Even if you leave it, for let's say 10 hours at home, there is no problem. They will not have time, to produce toxins. And why 0 to 5 temperatures? Because Clostridium botulinum does not produce toxins at temperatures below 5 degrees. There is one strain which produces up to 3.3 degrees toxins, but it's very rare. So safe temperature for minimally processed food, for preparing and storing, distribution is 5 degrees at the most, whereas at home you can use higher temperature for several hours. Thank you.
I think maybe a comment. Duration of shelf life of the product should be calculated, integrating your transport from the shop to your home.
And storage at home, so handling at home.
Yeah.
Usually you do not buy, at the last date, usually, and you still have a lot of time, to eat it.
What question, Witold, and additional to the earlier question, what is the effect of 1-MCP in minimal processed fruit? You given a remark about that, but what's the answer about it?
Well, I would say excellent. Not only good, but excellent. The major problem of processors processing apples is softening of apples. Because you realize that apples packed in packages, either controlled atmospheres or 85% of oxygen. This is shocking, but 85% of oxygen preserves fruit packed into, the packages. This is technology developed in England, interesting one. Anyhow, even if you protect your wedges of apples in minimally processed fruit, they still respire, they still soften, etc. And this was a major problem, and that's why in our research work we included MCP-treated apples, and the results were very, very interesting, because the preservation of texture during the whole process of processing and storage, etc., very promising.
So that would lead to the recommendation to use always 1-MCP in this case.
Undoubtedly, yeah.
We can take one more, if there is a burning question. Then we thank you, Witold.
Thank you.